Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rowing Chat. I'm Rebecca Caro, and today I'm joined by Ollie Zeidler for this week's episode. Ollie, welcome to Rowing Chat.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca, for the invitation. I'm glad to be part of this.
Now, before we kick into the detail, we're doing a reader survey, a listener survey, and can you help us by taking this short survey and telling us what you think? The URL is bit.ly, bit.ly/rowing chat survey. And the more we know about you, the listener, the better. Now, this show would not be possible without our sponsors. And this week, Rowing Chat is sponsored by Health IQ. You've heard of intelligence quotient, IQ, and probably EQ, which is emotional quotient, but doesn't it strike you as odd that there isn't a score that's given to the health of your body? We row, we take care of our bodies, and although masters athletes love to compare their injuries and their recovery strategies, we know that we're both fitter and healthier than much of the average population. So why should we not also get financial benefits from our rowing practice? Luckily, Health IQ feels the same way. They are a health insurance company who understands health conscious people are a lower risk category, and they offer good rates for fit and healthy people, like masters rowers. If you qualify, you could save money. Get a free quote today at healthiq.com/rowing or mention the promotion code rowing when you talk to a Health IQ agent. You will be helping us, and of course, we hope that they will be helping you. Our other sponsor is my new book, Rowing Tales 2018. This is a collection of stories that I have curated along with Peter Mallory. They're all about rowing. They're by a whole range of different people throughout the sport from different parts of the world. And they include the very funny anecdote by Matt McQuillan about his encounter with Gary Herbert, the Olympic coxswain. You can read that online on the Row Perfect website. I wrote a blog post about it. And it also includes Dan Boyne's story about rowing with Harry Parker, where the sadly late Harry Parker invited him to do the Head of the Charles with him. And it was quite an opportunity, but it was also very daunting indeed. Rowing Tales 2018 is for sale on Amazon. It's for sale on the Row Perfect website, and you can also get it as a Kindle book. Now, on with the show. Ollie, it's wonderful to have you here. Please introduce yourself to the listeners.
Yeah, hello, everybody. My name is Oliver Zeidler. I'm from Germany. I just started rowing about 2 years ago, yeah. And in the last 2 years, I made very good progress. So I was able to row at the World Championships this year in the A final in the single sculls event, and also went quite successful through the World Cups this season. Before I started to row, I was a swimmer. I started with 7 years in swimming and quit after not making it to the 2016 Olympics, and my team mates retired then. So I just made the move to rowing, which was a quite normal step for me because of my family history. So many rowers. I was maybe the only one who didn't went in the boat to this point. And yeah, this is my story.
So tell us, what are the medals behind you? Can you point to each one and tell us what you won?
Yeah, this one was the first one, the gold medal at the World Games, which I won in the 2000 meter erg event. there. This one is from the U23 European Championship in 2017. This was my first really international regatta, but of course in U23 level. This is a silver one. And then the 3 World Cup medals of the season, 2 times bronze and the silver from Lucerne.
So out of all of those races, which do you think is your best race so far?
The best race so far is none of these medals. It was the it was the semi-final of this year's World Championship where I went really, really good through the 1,500 meters, and then was able to do a little easier through the next few meters. But when I have had the option, or the only option was to win this race to get a gold medal or something like that, then I had then there was more in me just to pull through till the finish line. But yeah, unfortunately the final went a bit different then, but yeah, this was the best race of my career yet.
So tell us who was in the semi-final with you. Who are you racing?
At World Championships, this was Andre Sinek, Mindaugas Kriskonis, then I think the Serb Marjanovic, maybe Nathan from Poland, and the other guy was the Belarusian was the other guy. Yeah, I'm not sure about Nathan if he was really in this race, but yeah, the other ones definitely were there.
Can you remember what you were thinking when you got to halfway?
This was as this was really one of my best races. I was just smiling after the halfway. I was in front there, and it was really, really easy to that point, which is normally not the case in a 2K race. But the water was very fast this day, and it was just smoothly coming through the 1,000 meter, and then making it to the A final was the goal for the season, and just made it quite easy actually.
And then you said the last 500 meters you didn't need to go 100%.
Yeah, right. This was I don't know if this was a mistake. In my head, I always had the thinking about the lane structuring in the final. Then I knew when we will become the slower heat, so the slower semi, and I will get the second place. I will go on lane 5, and 5 and 6 and Plovdiv had been the fastest lanes through the whole weekend. So it was more a tactical thing then. But because of the wind conditions, they changed the lanes then before the final. So this was not really an advantage for me then, unfortunately.
In the final, which lane did you get?
I was on lane 2, I think, 3 or 2, and as they moved the whole racing lanes to the other side, so the only fast lane was maybe only the lane 6 then. It was getting faster and faster the higher the number was then. Yes, this was it.
This is racing, isn't it? It happens and changes.
Yes, there's rowing, yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you come from a rowing family. Can you tell us who in your family has been a rower?
So it starts with my grandfather, so the father of my mother. He was an Olympic champion in 1972 and quite successful around these years in the Coxed 4 event. Then from my father's side, it was my father who was very successful in the 1990s. His sister, my aunt, was also a rower, very successful. She was Olympic champion in the 8 event in Barcelona. And most of my cousins and my sister are rowing. My sister is very successful in the under 23 and is now aiming for a spot in the A national team this year. We will see how it is. will work. But yeah, this is my family, everyone in rowing.
And so you chose swimming. Were you just a very stubborn little boy and you said, no, I don't want to do the same as everyone else?
Well, I started in the age of 7, and I was a bit young for rowing. So I just started, was quite successful then, won a lot of medals in the age class events then, and there was no reason for me to change sports and switch to rowing, especially as you have got a lot of pressure when you have got such a family history in rowing behind you. You don't really want to make that step and maybe lose your face then.
Very interesting. And when you were swimming, what was your class? What did you do?
So my main event was the 100-meter freestyle. I also swam 50 and 200. So I was more a more sprinter there. And I trained a lot with the middle and long distance guys in Munich here in our team. So I also had quite good endurance, but I was a very tall and heavy guy with many muscles. So it didn't work for me in the longer distance events at competitions. Yeah.
It's interesting how body type classifies very clearly, particularly in swimming. You line up and people are very different in the different length events.
That's right.
Have you got very big feet as well, like the Australian swimmers?
Not that big. It's a quite normal size for my height. So
And you're 2 meters tall?
yes, 2 meters and 3 centimeters.
Fantastic. So obviously you realized, you had a sad realization that you weren't going to make it to the 2016 Olympics as a swimmer. Why did you fail in a selection? How did you know you weren't going to the Olympics?
I finished my A level in 2015, and after that I started a traineeship at a company here in Munich, and I also studied then next to the job and everything. So I didn't have that much time for training, which had been necessary to qualify for the Olympics then. So I realized quite early in 2016 that I will not make it this year. And then I just continued swimming, of course, helped the people there, my teammates, were free in the end, went to the Olympics, and were quite good there. And yes, this was what I had. This was the only possibility for me to do something for the Olympics in this year.
But obviously the Olympics remained a goal for you.
Yes, definitely. This was still a thing for me. But after everyone retired after the 2016 Olympics in my team in Munich, there was not the fun left. And I first did nothing for 1 month, but then I wanted to do some sport. I really wanted to, I needed the swimming or just some other sports just to feel better in my body.
And so what happened then?
After that, I started in 2017. I first started again with swimming, and also started to train on the erg, which we had in our basement here. So I could do this next to my job. Just when I came home, it was quite flexible training times for me then. And so I started there, went quite good. And in March 2017, I started at the German Indoor Rowing Championships. And was one of the first, this was the first rowing event I was competing in. And I ended up with the first place, beating the Olympic champion from 2012, Tim Grohmann. He was in the quad there, and yes, this was the point when I said, okay, I also want to try it in the boat. Maybe I've got some talent for it. And this is how it started.
That's fantastic. Obviously, your genetics are very strong, but of course, the mental motivation is important as well. You've got to want to do it, haven't you?
Yes, definitely. Especially when you have got a 2K race, you have to your muscles are burning for 5 minutes, and was something quite different to the competitions I did in swimming. This was 2 minutes maximum maximum time there, and suddenly 5 minutes just fighting. It was quite different, and you really need motivation to do that.
Now, am I correct that your father is your coach?
Yes, that's correct. We started this as our own project then, when I said, yeah, I want to learn rowing. Can you teach me? And he said, yes, of course. But when you ask him today what he thought about it, he just wanted to make sure that I don't fall in. And it was definitely not expectable that this went that good in such a short time.
How did you start? Did you start in a single scull?
Yeah, here in Munich, we have got some clubs here, but not many rowers in my age class or rowers who wanted to row with a beginner at the beginning of the year, of course, because then the qualification regattas and everything. You don't want to disturb their training, and I just started in a single scull. Of course, fell in, which was not that nice when you imagine that it was April here in Germany. This was quite hard, and especially for me, when you fell in rowing, this kind of failing in what you tried, and this is something I really hate when I fail in something. And yeah, so this is how it started, all in the single scull for the first year. I think the first time I sat in a double then was 2 months later, and in a quad, this was November 2017, was the first time I was part of a quad then.
And is your father a coach for other people, or has he never coached before?
I think he coached some younger guys in his club when he was a rower before, but he is not a professional trainer. This is just as I said, our project now, and I trust him. I know that he has got some serious knowledge about all the world's rowing, how it works there, and the success just give him right. Yeah.
And psychologically, it must be quite difficult sometimes to separate the man who is your coach and the man who is your father. How do you manage to make that separation so that you don't get mad at him?
Yeah, sometimes it's not that easy, especially in training when you're really at the end of your strengths and everything. You're really out of order, maybe. And then he said, "Yeah, just one more piece now." And you were thinking, "Oh no, why I'm doing that now? Why should I do that?" Then sometimes it ends up with discussions even on the water, and yeah. I want to say with that it's not always easy to have his father as a coach, but I also know that I can talk with him about everything. I'm a lot more flexible because I just can write him when it's getting 1 hour later, or I need more recovery between the sessions and everything. This is maybe something personal which you don't have with every coach in your life.
How does the German Rowing Federation support the two of you? Because you're still in Munich, and that's not a centre for the federation.
No, well, I just started in Munich, and it went pretty well. So I really want to stay here now. The other scholars are now starting in Hamburg to train there, making their big boats running there, also for the Olympics. and I'm concentrating now on the single, and the support is quite good. I also can travel with them to the trainings camps in other countries then also before the big events, and I'm also friends with most of the guys, so there's no problem, and the support from the federation is also okay. Yeah.
But now you are a 100% full-time professional athlete, no apprenticeship.
No, that's not correct. I'm still working next to the job, next to rowing, and I also have got the last semester with exams of my university degree. I will do my bachelor in next summer.
Wow.
Maybe after the World Championships, I will do my my final exam then, and then I'm ready with 1 year to prepare for the Olympics then full time.
And has your father had to quit his job to be a full-time coach with you?
No, he's still a police officer, and we are both doing this next to our jobs. So this is more a hobby at the moment for us, but I know that it will be necessary to get it done more professionally in the next year when it comes to the Olympics.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Now, you said that you've had, obviously you started and you fell in a lot, and obviously you got better, and your sculling has improved. Can you talk me through your two really important races that you described to me, the first World Cup and the third World Cup? Why were these races important?
Well, it was the first World Cup where I decided to be part of the national team as one of the single scullers. And yeah, it was my first international A-level event. And it was just a surprise that everything could happen in this race or in the whole regatta. I just fought race by race, so made it in the quarterfinal, then made it to the semifinal, and in the semifinal it was quite close to get into the A final. I think just a few tenths of a second was between Ketilborg and me then. He didn't make it to the final. I could made it in my first international race. And then in the final, the goal was just to be one time at this regatta. I wanted to be in front because this was not the case in the races before. And then after the 500-meter mark, I catch the Danish guy,
yeah.
And then went through the 1,500-meter mark in front, and then Andre Sinek in the end catched me, and also the Swiss sculler. But Belgrade was very important for me because I realized that we did a good job in our training. It was always our goal to be internationally competitive, not only nationally. And yeah, in the end, I realized that I'm already on a level where I can compete with the top guys. This was, of course, an amazing feeling first, and very important for the further regattas then.
So in Germany, how do they choose the single sculler? Because obviously Tim Olanaska is already a very successful athlete. Is he your number one rival?
I'm not sure how it will work this year. Last year it was the case. Definitely, yeah.
So he was the number one sculler and you were the number two sculler?
Yes, he won the national trials. So it was the German small boat championship. I only become third, but as he only competed in this regatta and no other obligational team tests and regattas before, also Belgrade was a regatta which you have to row when you want to be part of the national team at the World Championships. He didn't start there because of injury, I think. Mm-hmm. And so we had a bit of a discussion then just to get the chance to start in Linz. And after Linz, I still had some discussions with the head coaches to get my go for Lucerne then. And in the end, they said that in Lucerne, we will decide who will be the single sculler, because Naske only competed at the German championships. Linz was not one of the obligatory races you have to race. So it was just one race and then another race in Lucerne to get in this position for me.
And in Lucerne, what happened?
In Lucerne, it was maybe the best regatta of my career yet, because I won all races beside the final. In the final, I became second and beat the other German sculler by, I think, 10 seconds. So it was a clear result and my ticket to the World Championships. And also my third medal at the World Cups. And I was able to win the overall World Cup in my first A-level season then.
So you have a yellow shirt?
Yeah, I've got 2 yellow shirts. One I just gave a friend of me with a signature on, and the other one I have is hanging over there just.
Congratulations. That's very exciting. Obviously, you have come from nothing. Nobody knew who Ollie Zeidler was, 18 months ago, to being at the front of probably the most challenging men's racing in a single scull. What do you think is special that has enabled you to go so quickly from a complete beginner to being up there with the world title holders?
Well, I was lucky, of course, because I have got very good strength and endurance from swimming already. And then I have got a very, very good coaching, because when you have got one coach for one athlete, as I had in this time, there's a huge advantage for you. And this is certainly one point which made me go that fast in such a short time. Just my physiques and then the very personal training then.
When you're training, how much time do you spend on refining your skill with the oars, and how much time do you spend doing mileage and sprints and pieces?
I think in the first year, all the stuff I did was only technique in the boat. So just learning to row nearly to a point where you can really be competitive. It's not, rowing is a very technical sport, so you don't not only need your strengths and your endurance, you also need willpower, of course. But when you don't have the technique, you can be the biggest beer in the in the whole regatta, and you will not come through the first race, because this will not work. So it was all about technique in the first year, and that's what we concentrated on.
Can you think of some specific technique exercises that you remember were particularly helpful?
Well, first it was just staying in the boat. This was was a huge challenge already for me. And then it was learning how to make the stroke. So just a pause at the knees, just to make the boat flow, just to feel that. This was something I realized just because of this exercise. Because in swimming, you always want to stream in front and really don't put much effort from your upper body into the whole motion. And this is maybe the thing in rowing, when you just slide forward a bit slower and just let the boat make the movement.
So actually, it's quite similar, swimming and rowing.
Yes, I would say that. Yes, of course, there's water which you have to with which you have to handle, and the water doesn't change that much from time to time. Yeah.
What boat and oars do you use?
I row an Emperor, just one of the big ones, fitting my weight. And then I use the Concept 2 Skinnies. Yes.
Is it a reverse wing, the Empire?
Yes. Yeah. An X11, something like that. Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're only beginning your journey, and you, I'm sure, still have high goals for your athletic career. But obviously, at the World Championships in the final, it was not the outcome that you hoped for. You've already said you like to be in the front in a race. You like to be able to see everybody behind you. So what happened at the final at the World Championships?
Well, it was a bit confusing, the whole situation, what's going on there. As I already said, they changed the lane settings before our race because of the wind. We had strong winds from the side at the start. So then they told us that our race will start a few minutes later, so we don't have to go on water. Then they said racing will start in time. We don't have that much time to warm up then. And of course, the conditions were terrible out there. The wind just made it very complicated to move the boats there. And just before the start, I had a lot of problems just to get into the racing start system because of the strong side winds. I was still a beginner, I have to say that, and this is not a condition where you want to row at the most important race of the season. And yeah, then there was the start, was quite good, but the wind was still blowing from the side, and after the fifth or sixth stroke, I just catched into the buoys, and yeah, this of course affected the speed then, and I wanted to do it just as in the semi-final, just smoothly coming through the 1,000 meter and then put down the hammer. And this was something which didn't work in the final, unfortunately.
You tried to do it, but it didn't work.
Well, after the fifth catch into the buoy, I had to put a lot of effort into the first 500 just to get in touch with the other guys then again. And yeah, it costed a lot of energy, of course, which then wasn't there at the end.
So a disappointment for you.
Yeah, it was a disappointment because my form was really good. It was definitely good enough for a medal on this day. But yeah, the conditions just had blown my dreams away in this moment. Where
do you train in Munich?
I trained at the regatta course of 1972, at the course where my grandfather became Olympic champion. Yeah.
And is it often windy there as well?
Yeah, sometimes. Today we have got storm, so we also have got bad conditions there, but it's not a very big course. So I think it's got 150 meters. It's just, yes, right. And so there aren't that complicated conditions, of course.
So to get your practice with complex conditions, you're obviously going to have to go on camp or go to other places that allow you to learn side winds.
Yeah, to camp, or we also have got a big lake near the Alps here in Munich, where you have got a very great view, of course, and also very shitty conditions. Yeah.
Every rower will understand what you're describing. Yep. when you train, what do you think is your strongest asset?
Good question. I think it's my motivation in training. I really, when something isn't working as it should be, or I was planning to do it in this session, I just repeat it as often as it finally worked. So, so this is also something my father is sometimes complaining about because when something doesn't work, I just quit the session after 100 meters, return to the start, and then no, we'll do it again. Because I need the motivation in my training. And when I do a 2K and the first 200 are really not as I want to, I restart it. And yeah.
So that's fascinating. Is this something you think you learned from swimming, or is it unique to you?
In swimming, we trained in more shorter distances then. So when you have got maybe 20 times 100 meters, this doesn't matter that much. If you like when you do 2 times 2K in a training or something like that, then everything should be comparable and good in a 2K. So this is my way of thinking, and I'm not sure if this has something to do with my swimming. I don't think so.
The secret sauce of Ollie Zeidler.
Yeah, maybe.
What are your favorite drills or exercises that you do?
I really enjoy doing high intensity 2Ks. This is what is rowing at international level is about, and I really enjoy just running through the whole course in Munich and having the points. I can see the marks at the side, and yeah, this is what's also motivating me, and this is what I like in my training.
And do you get to do this regularly?
Not in the winter, but of course during the season when it comes to the regattas in 2K racing, definitely.
So
every training.
now you said that your father is still working full time in his job as a policeman. Does that mean you have to train before he goes to work every morning in the dark?
It's the same with me. I also have to work or go to university, so we train before that and after that. So before work and after work. So it fits quite good.
Excellent. And what's your ambition?
This year, it is to become German champion, of course, at the small boat championship, just to qualify for the international regattas directly, because I don't think that this year it will work out as last year, that the final World Cup will announce the single sculler for this year. And then it's definitely qualifying for the Olympics in 2020 and preparing for that.
Very, very interesting. Do you have any other big goals that you in your life?
Next, rowing related or next to rowing? What's
Either.
What's the question about?
Both.
Okay. The next goal for me first is to finish my bachelor's degree next year in 2019. And when I look at my university, I definitely want to do a master after that. And the main goal of me is to become a German tax advisor at some point of my life. We'll see how this fits with my rowing, because the tax advising exam is one of the most complicated you can pass in Germany. So this is also connected with a lot of work. And yes, I will see how it works out with my rowing, because my plan is not to retire after the 2020 Olympics. It's more like doing another 4 years minimum to spend in the sport.
And for rowing, do you want to go to Henley or ahead of the Charles, big races overseas?
I already competed at Head of the Charts this year, but Henley is definitely on my list. And if it works out as I planned this year, winning the national trials, then I maybe will go to Henley already in 2019 then.
And who are your rowing heroes? People who you would like to emulate?
Oh, that's really complicated to say, because I had a lot of role models. Just when I started with rowing, I first was just erging, so it was Rob Waddell first, who also had very strong times on the 2K erg, and then became Olympic champion in 2000. Then we have got the other big single scholars of the last years: Olaf Tufte, Mahit Drysdale. Then the guys I'm racing today with, Andre, Robbie Manson, Demir Martin. Yeah, these are my role models, I would say. But there's not one particular person I want to be like. It is just doing my own thing and maybe becoming Olympic champion one day, as most of the guys did.
And when you talk with your father about his rowing career and you compare it with yours, what do you see as the differences?
Well, he started rowing much earlier, and then unfortunately he was not that lucky with injuries, so he was not injury free. I hadn't had injuries in the last years, not even when I was swimming, so maybe this is a bit of a difference. And this is also the reason why I'm already close to his biggest achievements in the sport. I think he was fourth at the World Championships at the senior level one day. And in the World Cups, I made even better than him already. Yeah, this is maybe some parallelism, maybe some difference between us. Yeah.
Does he tell you stories?
Not that many stories. It's more from my grandfather, who always told me stories about rowing. I grew up with stories about Olympics and rowing events. I always was part of the competitions when the World Cup was out here in Munich. So I knew about the sport definitely, but I was not really interested in competing in a boat. But yes, I was into the sport definitely from another perspective.
Tell us one of your grandfather's stories.
Or maybe one of the nice stories.
He has nasty stories as well.
Yes, he was 3 times at the Olympics, and in his opinion, when everyone had still being not becoming sick, he might have won at least one more gold medal in his career. So this is one of the more nasty stories. There, of course, party stories are also a thing, but I think the most important story he told me was the winning of the gold medal here in Munich, when just the whole people around the course, it was more like a cave of people just screaming Germany, 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 and they just won the medal. And my grandfather, was also very funny. He was not very pleased with the race, because there was no sprint for the line as they planned to do it, but they won anyway. So
That's a great story. It's interesting that often the race that wins the medal is not always your technically best effort.
Yeah.
And you've experienced this already.
Yeah, maybe. Yes, definitely. It's not always the big race which is the most the best for you, or which was the best in my career. Yeah.
Do you watch rowing videos of other races?
Yes, a lot. Especially when I started rowing, I just wanted to know how the other guys do that, how to propel the skiff forward, and this was an important part of my my development. Just to watch races, see how it worked in the past, and how I can copy that maybe. Yeah.
So do you have some favorite races that you enjoy watching?
Well, I really watched a lot of rowing races, especially from the 2000 to till today. So maybe I saw 90% of the races already. But my favorite race is still the Olympic final of 2016, where in the single scull event, where it was really that close on the line between Mahe and Damier, and this was a great race, definitely, and I love watching it.
It's amazing that 2,000 meters is a very long way, and at the line, the difference between two men was, am I right, 1,000th of a second?
I think 4/1000, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And some very impressive athletes. Do you get nervous when you are racing?
I'm not getting really nervous. The only point of a race when I get nervous is just the time from the start signal till the third or fourth stroke when the boat is really running. As soon as the boat runs good, as I do it in training too, there's no nervosity. It's just pushing yourself to the limit and competing against the others. And this is really fun. There's nothing I have to scare. You have to be scared about, I think. So these are really just these 5 seconds of the race where I'm nervous.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Does your competitive nature come out in other parts of your life?
My competitive nature, just well, it's always nice to be the best, but at the moment I'm really concentrating on just becoming the best in rowing. So there's not much energy to do something else. But of course, when there's just a computer game fight at FIFA against my my friends or something like that, I of course also want to win. And yeah, that's it.
So are you a soccer fan as well?
Not that much, but I like the game FIFA. So
Fantastic. Ollie, it's been a delight having you as our guest. Thank you very much for sharing the excitement of your early rowing career. And I will book you now. So I will get you back when you've done a few more races and you can tell the listeners a little bit more. Can you tell them how they can follow you online?
yeah, sounds good. I'm quite active on Instagram. You can follow me on Ollie Zeidler, everything together with Ollie with double L. And yeah, I'm quite active there. I'm not that active on Facebook and other social media, but my Instagram is the channel where you can really follow my progress.
Fantastic. Ollie, it's been a delight. And to the listeners, we are in the process of migrating to a new website. The website is rowing.chat, and you can get notifications of new episodes of this show and other shows in the network by signing up on the mailing list there. Listen to Rowing Chat wherever you get your podcasts. And again, thank you very much to my guest, Ollie Zeidler. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.